Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in my tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. As you will have noticed from the title of the video, plans have changed. I promised you guys a long time ago that I would keep it real on this channel, and so that's what I'm doing today. I have learned in my 56 years that life doesn't follow a straight path. It often doesn't go according to your plan, and that the universe often has different ideas of what we're going to experience than we do. So when life does that, when life throws you curveballs, then you have to basically say plot twist and move on. And that, I think, is a pretty healthy way to move through the world. I don't always have the zen to do it like I'd like to, but in general, that's how I approach things when things happen in my world that are unexpected and that are sometimes disappointing. So today, I want to share with you guys the plot twist this last week. If you saw my video from a couple weeks ago, you know that I had found my parking spot on Vancouver Island. I was super excited about it. I traveled out there at the beginning of March to look at two potential spots, and I had decided on one of them. In the country, super peaceful and quiet, and I was really excited about it. It seemed like the perfect spot. Now, the couple that owned the property were a young married couple in, I would guess, their early 30s. I'm not sure. Obviously didn't ask. And they had 5 acres with a main house on the property, and then they had built this pad for a tiny house. They had paid to have the electrical run out there on its own meter and water, and they were in the process of getting the sewer hooked up to the septic. I'd had conversations with them, and then I traveled out to meet them, and then we were finalizing the rental agreement, and we were supposed to have a Zoom call last Sunday, a week ago, to finalize that agreement so that I could give notice here at the park that I'm in, because the mobile home park here requires 2 months notice to move. Last Sunday morning, I got a text from her saying, "Hey, did you see my message?" And I'm like, "Yep, saw your message. We're on for 5 o'clock today. I'm really excited." And she's like, "Oh no, I actually sent you another message to your work email." Well, I don't check my work email on the weekends. So already sort of suspecting that something was up, I logged onto my work email and saw an email from her saying that the property, they bought the property with his parents who live out, I think, in Nova Scotia. And I knew that. And the parents had no plans on coming out. They certainly weren't moving out right away. And I assumed that everybody was on board with the plan to rent out a spot for tiny house parking. But it turns out that the parents want to come out this summer. His parents do, and they don't want to rent out to a tiny house for at least another year. So therefore, the spot wasn't going to be available. I replied that I was disappointed, but I understood that life happens. Obviously, you can't control what other people do, and that I wish them well. I was grateful that I'd found out before I'd given notice. And even before that actually happened, I was thinking that in that rental agreement, there really was no protection for me if we had signed an agreement and the landowner, decided to pull out of the agreement. If I pulled out of the agreement, I lose my first month's rent. But if they pull out of the agreement after it's been signed and is binding, they give me back my first month's rent, but they don't lose anything. And I was already in my mind thinking that was a problem for me. So it turns out that spot's no longer available. And I really don't think that the RV park is the one for me. So I was back to not having a spot to park the tiny house. But if you watched last Sunday's video, I talked about a strategy that I never got a chance to implement, and that was the strategy of marketing the tiny house to potential parking spots. I showed you a flyer that I had seen online that somebody had done up, and I talked about marketing yourself when you're looking for a spot. So, you know, after feeling sorry for myself for a couple hours, because I think you got to do that, right? When something disappoints you, you're allowed to be disappointed. You're allowed to be bummed up, but I don't think it's useful or healthy to stay there. So I thought to myself, okay, now's the opportunity to test that out, to try that strategy out that I never got a chance to try because I found my spot in a more traditional way. So I have a friend, and he is a graphic artist and graphic designer. So I said, hey, would you build me a flyer? And he was like, yep, absolutely. And just send me what you want it to say. So I did. Send him the text, and he got to work. I showed him the one that I had found. And the first version of it was red and yellow to sort of stand out, and he had drawn the tiny house as a graphic, and it was really cool, but it didn't feel quite right. And I said, well, I'm not really sure about the red, I'm not sure about the yellow. He's like, well, send me a palette that works for you. So I did. I found a palette, sent it to him, and he goes, I get it, friendlier, softer. And that's what he built. So I'm going to show it on the screen here so you can see what an amazing job he did. And I am eternally grateful to him because I could never, ever, ever have done this myself. It is beautiful and it's professional, but it's warm and friendly, and it lays out exactly what I wanted it to do. So we got that done. I think it was on Tuesday evening or late afternoon, and I sent it to some people that I know on the island, some viewers, Sue and Sharon, thank you. And I forwarded it to some other people, and I put it on one Facebook group, Tiny House Facebook group. And then I thought, okay, on the weekend, this weekend, I'll put it on more Facebook groups. I'll look for some organic farming organizations, things like that, vegan groups on the island, anywhere like that. But I didn't really have time to do that during the week because I was super busy with work. But just from what I did, I got a lot of response, and it really kind of blew my mind. I was really confident that strategy would work, because what it does is it catches people's attention, and it sets you apart, and it shows that you are serious about what you're looking for, and you're very clear, and you know what you want. And I was shocked at the response that I got. Other than one location that was actually in the interior of BC, which was beautiful, in a campground, small campground that had some permanent spots, some year-round spots. And there was a spot available, really, really, really pretty place. But I ultimately do want to be on Vancouver Island. But other than that spot, every other spot is on Vancouver Island. And I'm kind of blown away with the response already. And I haven't even gone as deep as I could with where I could post that flyer, that virtual flyer. And then there's still there's still the strategy of actually posting it physically in places on the island, in the towns, near the towns that I would like to stay. So I have to say, I'm kind of blown away by the response, and I'm really, it's kind of exciting. I know it was disappointing to lose that spot, but this is kind of exciting. I'm enjoying the challenge, and I'm excited to see what comes up, because ultimately that first spot just wasn't my spot. If it was meant to be, that would have worked out. So obviously that wasn't my spot. My spot is out there, and I think that there are multiple options that you would probably never find if you didn't approach it in that way. So it's kind of worked out for the best in that I get to test out this strategy of finding a spot in this way and making it basically a marketing campaign for my tiny house. which if I can do, anybody can do. And I think that it's something that more people should look at, because so many of the responses that I've gotten have been with people saying, I have some land, I had an RV on there when I was building my house, and all the hookups are there, and now the RV's gone, the house is built, there's this spot, and I'd love to have a tiny house on there, or that sort of thing. It's amazing what people are doing that isn't advertised, and if it is, I don't know where it is. So it's a really cool strategy, and so far it's working really well. What I did was, for the phone number on the flyer, I actually went with this app called Text Now, where you can get a free online phone number, so you don't have to put your own phone number out there. I have my bigtinyhouselife@yahoo.com email address on there. So the flyer has my contact information there, but it's in a way that's still private and makes me feel safe. And I'm really kind of excited about it. So from, they say one door closes, another door opens. That's kind of trite, but in a lot of ways, it's true, and I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and often the things that are disappointing turn out to lead to something else that was as good, if not better. And I believe that the universe rewards action. So I could sit and be bummed out, or I could decide to do something, and doing something is better than doing nothing and feeling sorry for yourself. So yeah, getting that flyer built was amazing. And I'm very lucky, because I have somebody that I know and love and trust that could build that for me. But you could hire somebody to do that. I don't think it would be very expensive. And then you can basically have something to send out. I do think having a video of your house, a little tour of your house, even if it's just outside, is also a really good idea, because when I get contacted, I always respond with that video so that people can see what the tiny house looks like. Again, what you're doing is you're marketing yourself, your tiny house, and getting a potential landlord, landowner excited about having the tiny house on their property. So we'll see. I've talked to multiple people and looked at some very different situations, potential situations, and I'm very encouraged about that. Now, whether I'll be moving June 1st or July now is up in the air, because I do have to give 2 months notice, and I don't want to rush to make a decision. I want to be sure, but maybe I move in the middle of June, maybe I move in the middle of July. I'm not really set anymore. I have to be flexible that way. I don't want to feel rushed. I want it to feel like the right decision, and I want to have had time to think it through. But one of the takeaways from the experience of losing that first spot, of having that fall through, is that now I will not sign a rental agreement that doesn't have some sort of equal compensation should the other party pull out. So if we've negotiated a rental agreement and we've both signed, so now we have a binding legal agreement, and I've given my first month's rent as a deposit, if I pull out, I lose that. And I'm fully aware that if I pull out, I'll lose that month's rent. I can't sign one if the same doesn't happen from the other side. So if the landowner pulls out, the homeowner pulls out, I should get a month's rent back. Not just my deposit, but the equal amount should be at stake for them. Because this isn't a game, and once I give notice, I have to be out of here. And it's expensive to tear everything off, all the skirting off, get the tiny house ready to go, have made arrangements for a mover, put a deposit down on that, talk to my insurance company. All of those things are time consuming and cost, and potentially I could end up without a place to park, and that is not a good situation. So if for good faith, I think that is that's absolutely a reasonable thing to request. And if a potential landlord, excuse Sophie playing with my lip balm that she knocked off on the floor, if a potential landlord isn't willing to do that, then that just means, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means that that's not my parking spot. I absolutely will not sign a rental agreement that doesn't have that as part of it, because I need the protection as well. This isn't just like pulling up in a camper van. It's totally different. As soon as I have a confirmed spot and a legally signed agreement, all of those things are going to change. I only have 2 months to get the house ready to go. So that means I've got to get the tires back on. They've got to be tested, air pressure. I have to make sure that the lights on the house are working. I have to get that mover booked. All of those things take time. And as soon as I have that agreement, they start to come into play. So long story short, plot twist has happened. And I'm not mad about it. I was disappointed for a couple hours, and then I decided to put my big girl panties on and get to work and try that strategy that I talked about, but hadn't had a chance to try because I didn't need it then. Seems to be working. So I'll let you know what I find when I find one, and we'll go from there. So I just wanted to share that. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're staying safe. And remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. I love you guys.